Whilst it's possible in life to learn everything yourself with trials and mistakes, it's often fortunate if you can meet somebody who can help you along the way. A trainer, a coach, perhaps even somebody who can instruct you in all the things you need to know about life. I'm fortunate to have with me today a gentleman called Arif. Arif is a trainer, a coach. He's an author and generally a wise man. Welcome, Arif. Thank you for coming.
What a privilege.
To us.
What a privilege.
Do you know, you've written this amazing book. You've written many books.
I did.
A book called I Am Possible.
Yes.
Which reminds me immediately of a quote from one of my great mentors, St. Francis of Assisi.
Ah, right.
St. Francis said, start by doing what's necessary, then do what's possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible.
Impossible. Exactly.
So, should you have called this I'm Impossible?
Yes, it's very like another quotation actually, which defines this particular perspective on it. That is, when you spell impossible, the word itself says, I am possible.
So you have that slant already.
Yes.
Good. But tell us about what you're saying in this book, because it is so critical in life to succeed, and the easier you make it for people to succeed.
Well, it's now there's a challenge, as you mentioned, that I have to prove myself a wise man, as you already put me in a hot seat. When we look at life, when we look at particularly the way we define success, now I consider myself a student of the school of life and the school of success. So my first qualification was being a chartered psychologist, and that's how I started it. And to my amazement, I found out that most of the people who succeeded, who actually broke through something really big, they became millionaires overnight, they became a great celebrity, they became a great resource person, they became a great influence. Most of those people who were succeeding in our general terms, unfortunately, within 3 to 5 years of that success in their life, something really damaging happened. Whether they were divorced, whether they got a heart attack, whether their relationship got strained, or like something negative happened to these people. And then I started looking into that particularly intrigued me. But we found out that, unfortunately, success, when we are not ready for that, it becomes even detrimental. And that is very important to actually know what is success itself in the first place. And then we found out, oh no, success actually has to be defined in multiple layers. Having a couple of million in the bank account while you are totally broke in terms of emotional account or spiritual account would be actually disastrous.
So how would you define that success in the ideal way? Of course, each individual have their own requirements, their own tailor-made success formula. Yes. But if you were to have a general shot, what would you say it means?
Well, it's very interesting definition. One of my co-trainers and one of the heaviest player in this training world, Tony Robbins, he said the success could be defined as that you can do whatever you want with whosoever you want and at whatever time you want. Right, it's getting more leverage actually, getting more freedom, getting more choices, and at the same time, it is not only one frame of reference. It is having certainly a bigger wallet, right? But at the same time, having a spiritually enriched life, having stronger relationships, having greater integrity, and the best of all, being happy with yourself. What I particularly found out, and I've been lucky enough, I've been training the heads of states, the Hollywood stars, the Bollywood stars, and the particular Fortune 500 club, and those people who would, anyone would look at them and feel, oh, that's what success looks like. And when I was actually working with them, I found them miserable.
And insecure.
Insecure, miserable, and totally devoid of happiness. And that particular time I found out, my goodness, our real purpose to be in this life is to be happy, is to be actually, to be in the state of bliss. And if we are not there, then whatsoever we might attain, as far as the facade is concerned, then we are losers.
So are you really saying that success is liberation in every respect?
That is freedom. That's liberation. That's actually getting out of the box which the society or the world or the outer forces have kind of defined for us. It's growing out of that box.
Yet not damaging by being liberated.
Certainly, yeah. It is
within
actually
the norms of society.
Sharing that bliss, sharing that happiness, like getting in the bliss yourself, and then just distributing it, then infecting the rest of the world with it.
And would you say that when you say infecting the world, do you mean by love?
By love, by the power of inspiration, by the power of the choice that you can achieve anything. Like I Am Possible says that each one of us individually is capable of achieving his or her dreams, is capable of living the life of choice, is capable of being the bigger what one can be defined, he or she. And that's what which is I Am Possible is, that you are bigger than your definition.
But it's a you're describing a utopia, of course.
Yes.
And I'm sure everybody, if you can give them a pill, would take that pill.
Yes, certainly. Yeah.
But clearly, it's not so easy to get in that state of mind and in that frame. So what? Let's assume you can give us 5 principles. I'm making it up. Could be 3, 10.
Sure.
Just give us that instruction and say, guys, we haven't got time for a full training course here, but if you follow these principles, maybe you've got a good chance to get there.
Well, it's, first of all, I would contradict with a little one this side when she said it is not easy. For example, one of my trainer friend, Jack Canfield, we were together in the last May, and we were doing something, and it came up like, hey, yes, you got to discipline yourself. You got to actually have this much of exercise a day to discipline yourself. And one person says, oh, it's not easy to actually take that much of exercise a day or for a week. And he said, yes, fine, then try being dead. That's definitely easier, right? So when you say, when you think that, oh, staying in that frame is not easier than staying in the frame of misery, helplessness, and actually in a dark room is even more difficult. So we, in fact, every single moment in our life, we are passing through a particular state of mind. So it can be a resourceful state, and it can be an unresourceful state. Interestingly, psychologists discovered that in a single day, we actually go through approximately 125 different states of mind. So we are excited, we are super excited, we are feeling awful, we are exhausted, we are totally chillaxing, or we are actually once again feeling miserable. Yeah. So it comes in and out, like we just fade through and fade out of this entire thing. Now, those people who actually make things big, they actually stay in the resourceful state of mind, regardless whatever is happening outside. So this becomes the single most important principle, that you have got to stay in your resourceful state of mind. Actually, for that purpose, you need to know that what state of mind are you going through. So it's actually being aware of what is happening, what you're going through, because most of us, we are reacting to whatever is just thrown at us. We're not responding to it. So then becoming aware of actually what is going on, that becomes the number 2 step. And third, it is actually finding purpose in life. Knowing that why we are here on this planet, and what's your particular role in it, and then how are you playing that role in your your family, in your company, in your town, in your village, in the particular country. That is something that gives you purpose. And the purpose actually, when the purpose starts defining your life, and you actually start living a purposeful life, everything else changes around yourself.
So I think you've given three really good points. But again, I ask you, if it was so easy, then we wouldn't need a life coach or a wise man to tell them.
Yeah.
And my personal experience is when you walk down the road, I do not see everybody singing.
True.
So I think we need to ignite there. And you alluded on something called spiritual. Now, is there something to do with this? Is there a spiritual element to your discourse, as it were?
Well, it's...
Or you want to keep that a secret?
Oh, no, certainly. The secret should be out. Now, when we look at that,
yes.
Well, we consider it a 99% principle. And the 99% principle says that life is actually 1% what it happens to you, and 99% of how you respond to it. So yes, we don't, when you go out, we don't see people singing a lot, but then it's a choice. So we keep on making personal choices, and we can make a choice to be miserable, or we can make a choice to actually rise up. So it's interesting, and you might have come across so many people in your life. One thing happens to, say, 10 people. Now 5, it puts 5 out of business, and it puts 2 on the top of the business, and it puts 3 on the middle tier somewhere. So it's all about actually how we respond to whatever is happening to us. And when you say spiritual, actually, yes. When actually you talk about purpose, then you can never actually skip being spiritual. Because when you talk about purpose, you suddenly start looking at life in a larger frame of mind. It's not actually what is happening right now, this moment, which is important, being in the moment of in the now, but at the same time actually where it is taking us. And once you look at the life in the larger scheme of things, it starts making sense, but it's impossible being there without actually looking at from the psychology, from the spiritual lens.
But I was sort of alluding to something like, say, meditation, example.
Oh, yes.
Or even prayer.
True.
What I think you alluded to that, but what I'm saying is that from within us comes the inspiration to have that purpose.
Yes.
And now, of course, these days people talk about mindfulness and meditation.
True.
And if you are peaceful inside, then all those roads do open up for you. My question to you is this. I can see that you know how to instruct people. You have the knowledge of psychology, the knowledge of body language, the inspirational person that you are. But what level of teaching do you give in terms of, if you like, meditation or spiritual development?
Well, it's a very nice question, very intriguing one. And yes, when we talk about the spiritual aspect, actually, it is opening your eye inward on yourself. I've seen in my life that the blessed are those, in fact, whose inner eye somehow gets opened upon themselves, and that changes the whole thing, the whole perspective. I was with Goldie Hawn in the last week. She is the founder of Goldie Hawn Foundation, and she teaches and trains on mindfulness. Now, yes, when you say spiritually speaking, what are we talking about? Whether it's mindfulness, whether it's meditation or prayer, actually they relate to the same aspect of the brain. They address this, they actually put the trigger, the buzzer, and the same part of the brain that gets enlightened actually, whether you are meditating or whether you are praying. Now, and actually it even changes the shape of the brain as well. Deepak Chopra was here, and we spent a day together, and he shared that those people who got into prolonged meditation, in say beyond 2 years' time, their brain's physiology changed. So that's called neuroplasticity. So yes, when you talk about the spiritual aspect, the moment we start actually reflecting upon who we are, what we are doing, and we become aware of what is going on. That's mindfulness, becoming aware of what's going on. One of my gurus defines attention as being there where you are, right?
Moment.
Being in the moment, like staying over there, whatever you're doing, without any past, present, and the future. But
you're quite right. You know, I was reading about this. In fact, there was a program about some scientists actually doing MRI scans.
yes, true.
And you could see whenever you
Yes,
in
yeah.
meditation or in prayer,
Yes.
if you like, the mind
Exactly.
lit up.
Yes, it
So
lights up.
I think that everything follows from there in a way, and of course you harness once that point in one's human being is enlightened, if you want to use that word.
Yes, certainly,
And then you
certainly.
harness that energy. And talking about Jack Canfield, of course, he's a great believer in energy, the
Yes.
source of energy.
Yeah, true.
What's your view on that?
Well, it's
And what do you understand it to mean?
well, the way I understand it, that every single moment we are creating energy, and energy is not something which is given, like which you have. It needs to be created, and it's created by the way you act. Even our thoughts have energy, and scientists are measuring a particular, like one particular thought could have this much of voltage, right? So thoughts have power, and this power creates energy. So whether if it is a dark and gloomy and a pessimist thought, certainly it is of low energy. And if it is an optimistic and a glowing and a positive thought, it has more energy. And the way we understand it, that the way there's internet, there's an internet, right?
Very good. I
The
like that.
the way we surf whatever, there's internet which is somehow the whole universe, the whole world is connected through that internet. And our each and every thought, actually, it triggers something here and there, and things start happening. We say, oh, fine, I thought of this, I wanted to do some business, and that was with someone in Tokyo, and then we are meeting the same person after 1 week or 10 days, right? And things just start rolling. So we believe that, I believe that thoughts have energy, and we are actually, we can control that energy, we can maximize it, or we can minimize it, or we can destroy it. It depends upon how we actually deal with this energy.
And does it matter how noble that energy is or noble that cause is?
Definitely.
I mean,
Definitely.
in other words, if you wish for just money, as opposed to wish to help people,
Exactly.
is it different?
It's a different energy. And like those people actually who, like in terms of meditation or prayer, and almost all the religions of the world, one of the unifying point is that the moment you pray for others, the moment you get above this particular box, you suddenly become universal, in fact. And that energy is something that lights up the entire universe, not only the world.
Very good. I like the way you put it. Thank you. Now, your next book, or the other book, you've written many books, of course, is Follow Your Dreams.
Oh, yes.
And I remember a quote from Abdul Kalam, the president,
of
India.
Yes.
He said, you have to dream before your dreams come true.
True.
And I guess part of the problem about people is they don't dream, let alone wanting their dreams to come true.
Let alone following that one.
Yes.
The true thing one unique thing about the human beings is that everything happens twice to us. We have to think about anything in our head in first place, and then it happens to us. With for example, you think of spending a great day, you think of spending a great time, or having a great life, or having a great relationship, and then it happens to you. So actually, thinking about it, conceiving it, or dreaming about it is the first stage. And it's really important that we happen to actually dream that dream, which is like in Martin Luther King's words, I have a dream. And everyone has a dream. Most of us actually, it stays kind of unlocked for the rest of our lives, because this dream needs to be accessed. And it takes a lot of spiritual effort to get over there. But once you know that that's your purpose for being here in this world, then actually you become limitless. Then it's a different way. Then you find ways to pursue that dream. And all those people who have changed the world around us, they are those people actually who pursued their dreams. And that's why we're living in a much better world.
But, you know, people often say that, oh, I didn't get there because I was not lucky or I was unlucky. And what is your view on this luck?
Right. So I ask my audience when I'm speaking to a small audience of 100 people or 5,000 people, I ask them, do you want to have more? And
more luck.
No, so have more. So when you say have more in every respect, have more relationships, have more money, have more spiritual growth, like have more of everything. So do you want to have more? And most people say, oh, yes, yeah. Most of the hands would go up in excitement. Yes, we would like to have more. And I would say, fine, if you want to have more, you have got to become more. And that's crucial. That's the only way that you can have more. That means actually working on that muscle. If it's a money muscle, you got to work on that one. If it's an emotional muscle, you got to work on that one. If it's a spiritual muscle, you got to work on that one. And that's the only way that we can have more.
Do you, do you deliver dreams on demand, or do you help make the dreams?
In fact,
if you see the point I'm making.
Yes, certainly.
Because
certainly.
If somebody comes to you and says, you know, my dream is just to make money, I don't care about human beings, would you recreate that dream, or would you reprofile that dream?
Very interesting. In fact, I help people discover or rediscover their dreams. Okay. Sometimes you might have a perception or a misperception that that's what I want in my life. But then I sit with them, I talk to them, I help them, and sometimes they rediscover something totally different.
So you repair their dreams?
Sometimes, yeah, if it needs to be, yeah.
Good, because that's really important.
That's really
important. Just to deliver on demand is of no purpose.
That's no purpose. Purpose is the most important thing.
Yes.
Yes. That's why everything flows from it.
Okay. And what about this amazing question of love? You know, love. This is
yes.
is a CD about love. You know, I think it must be selling like hotcakes.
Yes,
because the word love is so wide in a way, of course.
It is
amazing.
It is, and somehow through all this journey, what I found out that love is the core of the purpose. Love defines whatever flows into our lives, and it's the mega dot that connects all the dots together. So those people, unfortunately, who couldn't understand love, or those people who couldn't have enough of it, or who couldn't actually distribute it, unfortunately, I found them in miserable shape. So this love which is spiritual, which is biological, which is psychological, and it has so many shades. And it's one of the most misunderstood, but at the same time, one of the most exciting emotion in our lives.
And is it as easy to receive love as it is to dispense love? Which is more difficult?
Right. That's a tricky question. Those people actually who believe in unconditional love, I've found them the freest of all. Those people who actually don't maintain or sustain an account of, in debit and credit.
Yes.
And particularly from your profession, actually, from those who are not actually, every time, because we are making emotional withdrawals, are we making a transaction, are we making an addition or deletion. So from that angle, those people who actually learn how to love unconditionally, they are those actually who live the happiest, the freest life.
Because they're liberated.
Because they are liberated. They're not. They don't treat it as a transaction, and that changes.
Distributed freely.
Exactly, distributed freely. Yes.
And receive freely.
True.
Now, much of what we've talked about is to do with emotion and teaching, but part of our existence, of course, is our bodies.
Yes, it is.
And the bodies actually, and the messages that we give, yes, is a blessing, but yet is difficult to control. It's complex.
It is.
And I think one of your books is it correct? It's called The Body Vocabulary, or it may be something in progress. Secret of Body Language.
Yes.
But it's really important to share with people listening how that plays a role in our lives.
That's a very important question. Thanks for referring over to it. In fact, it's really a strange phenomenon that the language we speak in most of the cultures, that's few thousand years old. Like there are accounts of language being spoken here, 10,000 years old, 8,000 years old. But the language which we have been speaking from the day one, because the human beings have been here for hundreds and thousands of years, in fact. So what language have we been speaking throughout that time, while the linguistic accounts are only 10,000 years old? Now that is the body language, the language which actually helps us understand emotions, helps us understand beyond the words. And Mehrabian's study, which is a very intriguing study, it found out that body language altogether could actually figure out 93% in understanding an emotional message.
More so than words.
Say it's 55% body language, 38% the tone of your voice, and 7% words only. So when you say, I love you, the words would count.
Look at me in the eye.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that would count 7% only the words.
Yes.
93% would count how you say it.
Yes.
Then that's why it's really crucial, actually, that we wake up to that aspect, how we are doing it. It can be more important than actually the words.
And that's why you get a feeling about people, isn't it, as you walk into a room?
Yes,
and
we do.
You feel that space, you feel that energy.
Yes.
And I know that part of your, I wouldn't say job, but part of your instruction is to, would you say manipulate body language? Or is that being too cynical?
Well, it's a body language is manipulated by so many people, by the politicians. Look at Trump and look at Hillary. Like the whole thing is kind of orchestrated, practiced. Every move is actually kind of defined. Every comma, full stop, right? Then yes, there are salespeople, there are performers, but one thing is for certain that most of us would immediately get a feeling when it's fake, when it's genuine. The reason is that the chip inside us is millions of years old, right? So the words, if the words in the body language, they're incongruent, if they're mismatching, we immediately get a feeling, oh, no, I'm not falling for it. So yes, that is one thing. People can actually fake it, and it may work for someone, but if you are truly living it, you are exuding it, then it does its job, because that translates the true you to your audience.
So it's undeniable.
That is
the
undeniable.
Truth.
Yes.
However, I find that people cannot pick it up so easily. They get confused.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's not a good example of politicians manipulating body language.
True.
But yet you can even enhance it. And
you can.
And it's our individual role to exude positive energy.
True. And the first thing is that you become aware of. Most of us are actually not aware of what our body speaks. And that is the problem. We don't know actually the signals we are sending to the rest of the world. So it's crucial that we understand, and then we can work it out, just like other muscles.
And also it depends on who you are interacting with, because the other party is interested in different things. They have their own agenda, and they'll receive certain signals and they won't receive certain signals.
It's the way we say that you need to have your own goals or your own agenda, what you want out of your life. Otherwise, you just become part of someone else's agenda to get what they want out of their lives.
Very good. Now, I mean, you also, at the end of the day, have studied business.
Yeah, I did.
And of course, the combination of psychology, human behavior, and the ability to instruct people on management and business skills is a profound formula. But with business comes stress.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that particular point?
Yes, it's like stress is actually the most defining phenomena of our time. In the last 100 years, when we have broken into so many frontiers in psychology, in technology, in education, unfortunately, the stress has also climbed up the ladder. due to definitely the kind of lifestyle change, the kind of challenges we have, and which is so consuming, in fact. A particular day for someone in London or in New York or in Tokyo or New Delhi or Islamabad is a tough day. So while everything is happening, so fine, it's great to have the iPhone, and but at the same time, we're giving away space from our personal life. So I, in fact, teach stress management, and I must acknowledge that I found it everywhere, from the holiest of the holies to the typical Fortune 500. It's everywhere, and it's important that we learn to actually we learn how to deal with the stress. The first thing that we wake up to that, how it is, what it's doing to us. We need to actually understand our stress quotient. Like, it's more important than our IQ, in fact. We need to become emotionally intelligent, actually, to avoid it. And then we need to become proactive. We need to learn, actually, how to become proactive and then deal with it. Because the moment, now, there's a very fine line between stress management, and I would elaborate that one. That stress management itself is a misnomer. For example, if someone says, I teach people how to manage their stress. No. Once you are stressed, then your brain is already throwing the neurotransmitters inside your body, right? Adrenaline and some of the stress hormones. They gotta stay over there in the next 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. So I don't actually teach people stress management. I teach them actually not to get stressed at all. Because the moment you get stressed, then the damage is already done. So it is totally possible through mindfulness, through meditation, through prayer, by spiritual awakening, that we actually zone out of it. And yes, it is actually in the eye of the storm is total peace.
And also to possess a sense of humor, that you
Most
can't
important.
control everything in life.
Exactly.
You know, you and I, you were a little bit late for the interview.
Yes, true.
But
Yes.
it went really well. We joked about it.
Exactly.
And so I think humor is a great solution, a great formula, a great antidote.
It's an amazing, it's a great medicine, in fact.
Yes.
Because the moment we start laughing at ourselves, our brain releases dopamine in our body, and the dopamine does something wonderful to us, and we feel relaxed. So all of us, we need to actually have the power to laugh at ourselves, and that is such a great muscle to have.
And you just threw in a word, actually, and let it go. You said emotional intelligence, and then you moved on very quickly, but it's a powerful word.
That's very powerful word. I worked with Daniel Goleman, who is the originator of the term, the EQ. And what he came up with is that emotional quotient is actually more important than your IQ. Because we have seen so many people who have great IQ, but they are miserable at developing and sustaining relationship. So that's why EQ is one of the fundamental part of most of the trainings we do with the Fortune 500 to different people and individuals, because somehow the kind of life, the modern life we are living, it actually dismantles, it steals most of our EQ.
And the other problem, of course, in modern life is this instant gratification on communication.
Yes, true.
And the demands that are put upon you by email and text messages and
WhatsApp and Viber.
It's happening, so people are actually expect a reply within minutes.
True.
And this is very difficult to fulfill.
It's very difficult. Like,
so what advice would you give people?
Actually, we through different mindfulness and meditative exercises, I train people how to relax that muscle, and actually how to have a brain break from whatever is going on. Every single day, for example, I teach people how to have a brain break from whatsoever is going on. And that particular brain break enhances their whole capacity to respond to whatever is going on in a mindful manner up to 200%. So it is actually, yes, fasting over all this flow of information which is happening to us. It is stalling it over there and then creating, yes, so not beyond this line and holding it over there, because that instant gratification an instant response actually is destroying our relationships, is destroying our bonds, and it's important to actually go through a mindful state to reflect and then to work it out.
I think what you've said needs to be understood even more, because the problem is not the speed of response, is the quality of the response.
Yeah, the quality.
Because you cannot respond, you need to be active, to consider it.
You can react or you can respond.
Yeah.
Most of us are reacting. We're not responding.
And so I think the quality of our communication deteriorates.
That does. That
Not
does.
just the time. Time
Exactly.
is fine, but
Exactly,
time
yeah.
takes away the quality.
True.
That is something which you've said now is so important. I wish people would
Yes.
consider that, because they'll make less enemies, they'll do good business.
Oh, yes, exactly.
and
Yeah.
all that.
Right relationships, yeah.
Now, you're also a little bit of a peacemaker.
Yeah.
And of course, all this is in the same sort of path. But,
It is.
But,
It is.
And you've been involved in Pakistan and India.
In the world, in fact, there are two types of forces. One, there are forces working for peace, and there are forces working for conflict. Unfortunately, there's much more money in conflict than in peace. The moment I found out, it was a big question actually, why we do what we do, why this world is actually in this mess. The moment I've been working with the parliamentarians, with the governments, and with the United Nations, with the European Union, through different projects. And then I found out that unfortunately, the world is in the mess because there's more money in the conflict, there are more resources in the conflict, and we are feeding it every single day. Now, most of the conflicts which we have around the world, look at Palestine, look at Syria, look at Kashmir, actually there are ploys in the hands of powerful men and women. And they are using and abusing it to create the conflict for their personal gains. So what I do, in fact, I speak over these topics. I go to the universities, I go to different institutions, and actually I try to open people towards this concept that where they can look at these conflicts from a third perspective, from another eye, apart from the eye of those people who are creating conflict, are those who are the victims,
Or the media.
or the media, in fact. So that's what I do with the think tanks, and I think it's essential for all of us to actually contribute towards the forces of peace. So the peacemaking becomes a bigger business compared to the war making.
So how can we all play a part in this?
That is that I need to be at peace with myself. I need to be at peace with my neighbor.
Yeah.
I need to be at peace with my partner, with my family. So actually it all starts from
within.
From within, yes. It's important. If I'm at war within, or with my family, or with my partners, or with my friends, in fact, with my relatives, I cannot contribute to a world which is more peaceful.
So in a way, really, it all comes back to our own
It does.
meditation, our own peace of mind, our
Luckily,
own happiness.
that's why it is I am possible. And the tag goes, I am possible, and the time is now.
Yes.
So it clearly says, yes, whatsoever, beyond the past and present, this is the time to do what you yearn to do.
Now, moving from the sort of macro peace thinking to the slightly micro problems that we face, and somebody slightly unique like you, that you have a foot in Pakistan in a sense and a foot in this country, there's certain very challenging things that are happening in this country, meaning the United Kingdom,
True.
to do with immigration,
Yes.
to do with integration. Have you any advice on that? Have you any points of view that make it easier for people to live in harmony?
That's very important. It's crucial. On the outside, it seems that we are actually stepping into a world which is like moving at the speed of light, and we are dissolving the borders and barriers. But unfortunately, at the same time, we're putting the barriers up. So I look at it this way: that we have two choices. We can build walls, or we can build bridges. Right? There are only two choices over there. So we have to make a choice whether we want to build bridges opposed to building walls. And the moment you start building bridges, everything changes. I've done so many integration seminars and so many peace camps. Sometimes the worst of the enemies, like say, okay, a Jew and a Muslim in a typical stereotypical sense, or a Christian and this, or the hardliner and this, and the moment you actually start touching upon those points which define us, we suddenly find out we are more similar than we are different. In whatsoever capacity, whatever we're doing, we are more connected. There are more dots which can connect us than the dots which actually divide us.
But sadly, we try to emphasize on our differences. Like the example, I'm just thinking of an example, people dress differently just to distinguish themselves, often without great meaning. Just to say, I am different, not I am possible, I am different.
Yeah, I'm different, yeah.
And that, to me, sadly, is not building bridges, it's actually building walls.
True. Once again, I would say that even if someone is dressed differently, the willingness to actually, once again, to get over that particular wall and get in touch. But the economy of difference is, once again, as I would say that, unfortunately, why most of us not actually becoming, are coming together, because the economy of differences is greater than economy of oneness. So because politics is involved, big money is involved, big business is involved, and it's important to flow or actually push over the stereotypes instead of those things which can go beyond it.
I say that because of what you earlier said, the body language. If you're dressing and your behavior, it wants to be different, to say, I am different.
True.
It puts the barriers.
It does.
Your bridges cannot even begin.
It's important.
Don't touch me, it says.
It's important to understand that the kind of message we are sending to the world around us. It's important to become aware of it. It's not actually becoming assimilated or becoming mixed in it, but at the same time, it's important to keep the fine line in between, knowing actually that you stand out, that yes, you are here, because actually defining ourselves is our number one, as a human being, is our number one priority. Look at me, I stand out for this one. Now, but becoming aware of it, the kind of signal we are sending to the rest of the world, is very important. That's what is emotional intelligence.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to ask you the last and the most profound question.
How?
All these words, all this behavior is fine, but our purpose in life is to have a happy existence.
True.
Is there anything, other than lots of lovely things you've said, is there any single thing you'd like to say which liberates human beings?
I would say what I've found out through all these different interactions and processes I went through, that one of the best things that happened to us is having a kick at our back. Adversity, failure, rejection, these are the things actually, when things go wrong, actually, they're going wrong for a purpose. They build us into something really big. I would share an anecdote, and that is something which is truly, it is very close to my heart. Most of us actually will look at life and we want to have it all, and without paying the price. And we don't know that when we are actually failing and whether not having it, when we're actually missing it, it's happening for a reason. There are greater messages throughout this journey. And there's a circus in Bengal where they went out of business, right? Because it was not more sustainable, because the government put some taxes, and they had 13 lions, Bengal tigers, in fact, in their circus. And unfortunately, due to the levies and taxes, it got so big that they said, oh fine, let's close it, let's shut it down, and let's move on. So the circus owner released those 13 tigers, Bengal tigers, in a nearby forest. Now, what happened that after approximately 6 weeks' time, 9 of those Bengal tigers were actually eaten up by the stray dogs.
Because they were not trained.
That was absolutely shocking, that Bengal tigers were beaten up and eaten up by stray dogs, because they were not trained to hunt for themselves and survive on their own. So that's what happens to us, in fact. All these adversities, all those trials, all what is happening to us, which is not, we're not getting there, that's happening for a reason. That is to build us into something which can actually sustain a longer way. So our adversity, our trials, and our failures could be our best friends. We can fail forward and we can make it big.
What a lovely spiritual answer, Arif.
I'll play it.
Thank you very much for talking to us.
Such a privilege.
Thank you.